Imagine the year 1241. The Mongol Empire, a force seemingly sprung from myth, had exploded out of the steppes. They crushed armies that dwarfed their own. Their horses' hooves thundered across the bones of fallen empires. From the Pacific to Eastern Europe, the Mongols were unstoppable. Their conquests were brutal. Entire cities were reduced to ash. Millions perished. Then, at the Battle of Legnica, the Mongols taught Europe a lesson in warfare. Polish, German and Templar knights, clad in heavy armor, expected a traditional fight. They were met with a terrifying alien enemy. The Mongols, masters of mounted archery, rained arrows from afar. They used cunning tactics and psychological warfare to break their foes. Another Mongol army triumphed at the Battle of Mohi in Hungary. Europe trembled. It seemed nothing could stop the Mongol horde. Then the unthinkable happened. The great Khan Ogedai died. The Mongol generals, bound by tradition, returned east to choose a new leader. This pause for succession saved Europe from immediate conquest. But what if it hadn't? What if the Mongols had pressed their advantage? Without the recall order, the Mongol war machine would have continued its westward march. Imagine the terror in the hearts of the French, the English, as news arrived. The Mongols had crossed the Rhine. No army in Europe could match the Mongols' speed, their discipline, their ferocity. Cities like Vienna, Paris, even Rome would have faced the same fate as Kiev or Baghdad. Some kings might have surrendered, hoping to preserve their lives in some semblance of power. Others would have fought only to be crushed beneath the Mongol war machine. It's a grim picture, but history is often written in blood. The Mongols were masters of siege warfare. Their engineers could build bridges, catapults, and other siege engines with terrifying speed. They used gunpowder weapons, a technology largely unknown in Western Europe at the time. Their advance might have been slowed by logistical challenges. Europe's forests and mountains were different from the steppes, but the Mongols were masters of adaptation. They would have learned, they would have adjusted their tactics, and eventually they would have prevailed. With the conquest complete, Europe would have become another jewel in the vast Mongol Empire. The Mongols were pragmatic rulers. They often adopted the customs and religions of their conquered subjects. They valued trade and often established safe passage for merchants along their vast road networks. This period of peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Mongolica, facilitated cultural exchange and the flow of goods and ideas across Asia. In this alternate timeline, Europe would have been integrated into this vast network. Imagine caravans laden with silk and spices traveling from China to Paris. Imagine European scholars traveling the Silk Road to study at the great Mongol universities. The Mongol conquest would have brought destruction and death, yes, but it also would have ushered in an era of unprecedented cultural exchange and technological transfer. However, Mongol rule wouldn't have been a utopia. They were tolerant. Up to a point, any rebellion was met with swift and brutal reprisals. The Mongols practiced religious tolerance, but they favored those who converted to their own faiths, like Tibetan Buddhism. European Christianity would have survived, but its character would have been forever changed. Imagine a Europe where the legacy of Genghis Khan is etched into the very fabric of society. Castles stand unfinished, abandoned during the Mongol conquest. Churches incorporate elements of Buddhist architecture. The languages of Europe are peppered with Mongol loanwords. In this alternate timeline, the Renaissance, as we know it, might never have happened. Perhaps Europe would have developed along a different path, influenced by Eastern philosophies and technologies. The Mongol Empire, despite its power, eventually fragmented. Internal strife, rebellions, and economic woes led to its decline. What would have happened to a Mongol-ruled Europe? Would it have fragmented into smaller khanates? Would it have eventually broken free from Mongol rule, forever changed by the experience? These are questions we can only ponder. History is a tapestry of choices and consequences. The Mongol decision to turn back in 1241 is one of those pivotal moments. It's a chilling thought to imagine what might have been had they stayed, but it's also a reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the enduring power of empires, even in the face of eventual decline.